Good day to everyone. So for today's video, we're going to talk about purposive communication, subject, a general subject for the tertiary level of education. Okay, so specifically, we're going to tackle chapter 2 entitled Communication and Globalization. And of course, to give the brief background on what the video will be all about, let's have the topics. So the topics covering this video will entail: number 1, what is globalization? Second, impacts of globalization on communication. And third, impacts of globalization on global communication. Alright, so hopefully that at the end of this video, we will be able to discuss the following. So let's start with the first one, globalization. So globalization is the process by which people and goods move easily across borders. Yet, there is also a cultural element as ideas and traditions are traded and assimilated. Okay, so if we're not going to talk about communication, generally, this globalization has this term. It's the process by which people and goods move easily across borders. But of course, if we're going to tackle communication, okay, we're going to tap the cultural element of this as how this affects the ideas and traditions of people who produce such communication. Okay? Another, globalization is the process of bringing people together and making them interact and exchange ideas across traditional borders. So, because globalization allows us to go to another place, okay, we get to have harmonious relationships, we get to know them, we got to discover their beliefs, their principles, their traditions, and we get to interact with them. So we already have this discovery of their traditions, okay, and that means to say that we could adopt, okay, so it depends, okay, but this is because of globalization. This is all made by globalization. Another definition, according to Gamble and Gamble 2013, globalization is the increasing economic, political, and cultural integration and interdependence of diverse cultures. Okay, so when we say globalization, there comes now the improvement, okay? But how does that go? Okay, it is through the exchange of diverse cultures. So we learn to integrate those best practices of other places in order for us to be improved. And that means that such kind of improvement would pertain to economic, political, and cultural. Alright, so we have the last definition. Actually, we have a lot of definition of globalization. It's just that we have enumerated some, okay? And one is how it's really defined generally, and for the other definitions, it is concerning purposive communication. So we have this one, Marshall McLuhan prediction in his book, The Gutenberg Galaxy, published in 1962 of a global village. So he has this term on his book. What does a global village mean? It is one world interconnected by an electronic nervous system. So that's media. And that has become a reality. So that's what he means by global village. We already could interconnect to one another through media. It's like at a certain click and a certain snap of your fingers, we could already get to know, okay, or discover different cultures in different places. All right, so there will be a lot of definition, and I know that you have had your definition own definition of globalization as well. Globalization is not really new, okay? So the globe has been globalized even before men coined the term globalization. Okay, yeah, just like what I told you a while ago, okay? Generally, it's the exchange, okay? It's the exchange of goods, it's the buying and selling to each other. But on this context, we're talking about purposive communication, okay? And how is globalization interconnected with purposive communication? It is because through technology that we begin to improve our ways on how to communicate with one another, either through writing or through speaking. And later on, we're going to know more about that, okay, by discussing these impacts of globalization on communication, okay. So let me read the following. As more people cross borders because of globalization, more language contact happens, making communication more challenging. Okay? So, they say that, or we say, or most of us say that when we cross borders, we begin to benefit, okay, from the place we are coming from or going to. It's because we begin to be more aware of what is happening outside our knowing. But when it comes to purposive communication, it's because when we cross borders, we get to discover their traditions. It's new to us. And sometimes when we communicate with them, okay, it's sometimes challenging because we really don't know initially the do's and don'ts or how to respect a certain person, okay? Because sometimes how we respect it in our country is different from them, okay? So that's what it means by this one. That's the first impact. And then second one, because of technologies, we have the opportunity to view diverse perspectives that were outside of our scope before. Okay, so just like what I told you a while ago, when we cross borders, we get to know the things unknown before on our end. Okay, but because of technologies, again, we have already the diverse perspectives. Okay, we are already open-minded. Okay, that what is existing in our place might not be existing to them, and it's just okay. All right. Okay, another, because of globalization, the world becomes more accessible and equitable in general. Okay, so it is saying here that with just the use of media, different platforms, we access the different cultures of different places. And so, everyone of us who have maybe our phones, our gadgets, in which we could download applications to have video conference or chats. Okay, so that is making us access different cultures, traditions, principles, and beliefs. Okay, so it means to say that information or access to information is already equitable to anyone. If you just have your cell phone, your laptop, and of course you have your internet connectivity, you could discover a lot. But then again, some are not really having this kind of gadgets, okay, in other parts of the world. They don't have internet connectivity as well. So, they are not really accessing this different sites, okay? And their accessibility to information is limited. But then again, they are just few in the world. So, we must also reach them, right? Okay, so that's the impact of globalization on communication. Okay, all right. We have other impacts, okay? And this time we're going to talk about how to use technology to communicate with people on the other side of the globe. So we have the first one, virtual interactions. Because of globalization, we were introduced to virtual communication. So, with this one, we get to collaborate with other major part of academic and workplace dynamics. Okay? But we need to understand the strengths and limitations of different communications media. Okay? So, we need to know the maximum effect of this different platforms. Like for example, if we're going to use emails, okay, yes, we could deliver the message to anyone, but we must take into consideration certain etiquette when we send emails. It's not just because we want to say something to someone, then we're just going to do it. Though, there are other applications, okay, in which we could send personal messages, okay? Just like Messenger, Facebook, and others, okay? So, in here, okay, because if we have gadgets, we could access almost everything, okay? Some people don't know how to practice certain etiquette when it comes to communication, but there should be as well, right? Second one is cultural awareness in speech. The need for cultural awareness is a major impact of globalization on the required skill set of effective communicators, resulting in the evolution of communication skills development programs. Okay, so I told you a while ago that when we cross borders, we get to discover cultures, principles, beliefs, tradition, and same with speech. We get to encounter different languages, okay? But on our language, there is a counterpart to another language. But we need to take into consideration which among this counterpart of our language is just okay for us and okay for the another culture. Because a certain ordinary word in our language might not be ordinary to another language. So, we must take into consideration that one so that we are respectful all the time. And then we have number 3, cultural awareness in body language. If we have cultural awareness in speech, we also have in body language. There are people in which when they act under a certain culture, it's just normal. But when someone sees them, in their culture, it's not. So, we must be aware, we must be sensitive, okay, of what is okay with us and okay with them, okay, so that there will be proper exchange of ideas, okay, when we talk about different purposes. All right. And then another one is the time differences. Okay. Yes, because of course we are living here on earth. It's rotating, and our day might not be a day to another man. Our night might be the night of the woman. Okay, so we must take into consideration time differences. If ever we want to communicate with other people, say for example, foreigners, okay, and you take into consideration what will be the time here and what will be the time on that place. Will there be exchange of time zones, some sort of things like that, so that we begin to respect the time of each other, especially if it's nighttime. Of course, people are sleeping, okay, but you are there during the day working, and you need to communicate with someone, but they're asleep, okay, so we must take into consideration those kinds of situation. Okay, so those are the impacts of globalization on communication. Okay. Next one is the impacts of globalization on global communication. So we have a reference here from Danib 2017. Okay, so the process of globalization has widely increased the availability of information for people across the world. So, by the use of the internet, okay, and advanced mobile services, people are able to discuss business plans and proposals on an international level, okay. So, global communication services have also contributed to the enlightenment and development of the political process in a number of states, okay. So, Tanev enumerates the 3 major impacts of globalization on global communication. First one is the availability of information, okay? So that's the major effect, of course, okay? So because of the internet, and if you just have your gadget, you could access almost everything, okay? But the impact of this to global communication, okay? Decades ago or years ago, when the TV, radio are emerging, okay, and then suddenly this World Wide Web became available, okay, so there's already this decrease price of the TV and others, okay, because we are more on having the goal or aim to let other people access information easier, faster, okay, with the minimum availability of resources, okay, and thanks to global communication. Another one is business conduct. Globalization has influenced global communication by implementing new technique for business conduct among workers at international corporations. Okay, so because of globalization, okay, employees who are bound to travel outside the country would tend to just initiate a virtual meeting, okay? And that, of course, would save money in travel expenses, okay? And then they're just going to allot those to meet the different goals for their company. All right. Next one is social awareness. So, the availability of information, which is a direct effect of the development in global communication systems, has led to increased social awareness of people across the world. Okay, so they begin to share opinions, views, and then work on projects and research different areas. Actually, through this one, okay, we have our Facebook in which we could just freely comment, okay, if ever that the post is made public, okay. So, the owner of that account would either take it positively or negatively, but hopefully positively, so that she will be improved, okay. So that she will become more aware, okay, socially, of what is accepted and not in the society. Okay, now I have put here the problem. Okay, so the problem under the impacts of globalization on global communication. Okay, so despite its quick spread and continuous development, global communication has not reached the majority of people on all continents. So that's what I'm telling you a while ago. So, the World Health Organization indicates that at least 70% of people in Africa will never make a single phone call or use internet. That's sad, but hopefully we're having movement for that. So this points out the need of a more extensive application of communication technologies as part of the process of globalization. All right, so that's the impacts of globalization on global communication. I hope that I was able to discuss the following topics concerning globalization, impacts of globalization on communication, and impacts of globalization on global communication. So I hope that you learned today with this video. Okay. Thank you so much and have a great day ahead. Goodbye.